Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis, and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903.
As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. And, it is always another day, another crazy story from the Biden administration and from all of the insane liberal leftists. So I am so pleased to have my good friend Ryan Fournier, who, of course, was the head and still is the head of Students for Trump, very successful organization that really got student engagement for President Trump. And I hope, Ryan, that we're looking forward to more of Students for Trump heading into 2024.
Oh, 100%. We're already getting some boots on the ground in some of these really tough primaries in some battleground states. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk more about the midterms in a moment. But first, for those of you who didn't see Tucker Carlson's show last night, I think that he highlighted one of the most important stories and questions for the Biden administration of what is exactly going on with the Nord Stream pipeline. Apparently, there is now this leak, and it looks like it was sabotaged, and who may be responsible for this pipeline that, of course, goes from Russia into Europe and and is part of this whole, Ukraine-Russian war. But what's interesting, Ryan, that Tucker highlighted last night is that Biden himself and a couple of members of his own administration actually foreshadowed this. I mean, is this an instance where we need to actually pay attention to what Biden is saying and he might actually know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I think he said so many crazy things that at this point, people just kind of put it in one ear and out the other. But this is pretty critical. And I think this needs to be investigated by Congress, because it seems to me, and I did read an article just this morning where the Navy Sixth Fleet was performing research and testing in the same area where this explosion occurred, within the same vicinity around June or July, mid-year. So there's a lot of questions to be raised. When you scrape at the surface, you could think, one would say, okay, maybe Russia did this. But then when you get a little deeper, you start to realize, okay, why would they do this? Because they already shut down Nord Stream, the Nord Stream pipeline to Germany, a couple months ago, maybe it was a month ago. This is one of their number one sources of power of Putin's dominance, is this pipeline. So then you start to really wonder, it doesn't make sense, right? I think, and this is my theory, I think it was the U.S. It could have been the U.S. It could have been a coalition of countries that participated in this. It puts Germany in a really bad situation, though, because when you really think about it, they're going to go through a dark winter. Their energy prices are going to be unbearable for even some of the richer, citizens in that country. But it also kind of forces a hand with Germany. It sort of takes out this peace to where they could have peace talks with Russia. I don't think anybody really wanted that. So now it kind of, forces their hand in this conflict as well. If I'm being, quite frank and honest with you, it is scary because it looks like we're on the brim of a third world war with another superpower that has nuclear capabilities, more so than Iraq or Afghanistan. When you look back to, Desert Storm, all the conflicts we had overseas after 9/11, this is a pretty scary time. And it reminds me, and I this is sort of a history brush up for some people. If you haven't heard of it, go look it up. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, which escalated our involvement to its peak in the Vietnam War, got us into the Vietnam War because essentially it was lied about that there was a secondary attack on U.S. warships in the Gulf of Tonkin when there wasn't. So this is sort of scary times, and I think it definitely needs to be looked into, because if we're responsible for this, people need to be held accountable, and it seems like we might be.
Yeah, and that's really the speculation, especially with some of the, MP accounts that are on Twitter actually thanking the United States, and, whether or not that's just, conjecture and some of these, false flags wanting to blame the United States. But it really is the question. And, you actually led me right into my next question. It seems like Joe Biden and everyone who is, kind of the undercurrent of his administration and actually running things, you have to wonder, are they pushing us intentionally into a third world war so that he can continue to destroy the economy? He can continue to push the United States toward socialism. And, what are we even doing here by getting involved if we did, getting involved in this conflict? Meanwhile, we're sending billions and billions of more dollars to Ukraine for this conflict that really shouldn't be ours to begin with.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when you look at the territories that Russia wants within Ukraine, and I don't condone this war whatsoever. I mean, it's horrible travesty to see what some of these people are going through, their lives upevened, in the blink of an eye. It's horrible. But these areas, which are predominantly, Russian-based citizens, people who are from Russia, there's been polls done in these areas, door-to-door polls, even going back to the 60s and 70s when this was Soviet Union, controlled territory, where they wanted to be a part of Russia. They didn't want to be a part of Ukraine. So there's a lot of questions there as well. But when you look at the amount of money that we have sent to this country, I mean, it's going to be probably $1 trillion here sooner or later. For a war that has nothing to do with this. There's no transparency. There's no accountability. There's no responsibility. We don't know where the money is fully going. It raises a lot of questions because here at home, Jenna, and you see this, everyone sees this every single day, we're dealing with inflation that we haven't seen before. We're on the brink of economic collapse. Everyday Americans can barely afford to put food on the table. And our main focus has been this conflict thousands of miles across the sea. I don't buy it. What other countries are paying their fair share into this battle, right? Trump brought this up all the time. He warned the West, you need to become energy independent. He was right again because of a situation like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does raise the questions. Why is all of this money going to Ukraine? And is there some other reason and some other maybe nefarious reason that the Biden administration, the Democrats, are paying Ukraine this amount of money? I mean, and there's speculation out there. And of course, today's conspiracy theories, as Donald Trump Jr. likes to say, is, just tomorrow's news in advance. But, we need to ask these questions. Is this a payoff because of Hunter Biden and his ties to Ukraine? Is this a payoff for the first impeachment? Is this a payoff for something else that we don't even know about? And I think it is incumbent upon Congress, even when the Republicans are currently in the minority. I mean, don't just answer the liberal leftist attacks and, what they want the narrative to be. This is something that Republicans need to actually genuinely investigate, raise those questions, and continue to hammer. It's really frustrating when you only have a few people on legacy media like Tucker Carlson and just a few others who are willing to actually come forward and say, okay, here's what you really need to pay attention to, instead of just responding to the left consistently and always be on defense. That's what what Donald Trump did so incredibly well was that he
Right.
dominated the news cycle, and he forced the media to cover what he wanted them to cover instead of just responding to these attacks. And so pivoting now to the midterms, I mean, everybody's kind of waiting for the Republicans to regain control of the House and hopefully the Senate. But is that really going to change much? I mean, there's a few fighters like Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massey, who I absolutely love, who's holding people accountable. But is this really going to be a majority that we're going to see a measurable difference in terms of holding the Biden administration accountable?
Well, if we elect the Democrats, they can stop hurricanes, according to Amy Klobuchar. So, I mean, anything's possible. I look at this whole, dynamic right now where we have some of the brightest, youngest, most diverse candidates within this pool who've won their primaries and are on their way to victory if we do the right things. Nothing is assured. And I think that when you look at this and what Jen Psaki just said the other day, she said, if this is a referendum on Joe Biden, we are going to lose the midterms. And she's 100% right. For the first time, I agree with Jen Psaki. Psaki. I keep saying Jen Psaki, but maybe that's not so bad. It's one of those things where it's like you look at what happened in Afghanistan. You look at what's happening in this country right now, where our priorities are overseas on foreign policy matters when we can't even keep ourselves afloat. We are winning on the top 4 issues: economy, education, schools, and crime. We're winning on those issues among the Democrats. Those are the kitchen table issues that everyday Americans care about. You look at cities like Philadelphia, you look at places like Chicago, Illinois, there's shootings every single weekend. People are dying in the streets every single weekend. This is something that people really care about because it affects their lives. It's right at their doorsteps for many people. If we stick to these issues, if we keep the focus, the fire, and the fury on these issues, then we're going to have no problem winning. When we get into office, I agree with your sentiments. I hope it is not another 2017 where we fumble the border, we fumble healthcare, we stop listening to the voters. Meanwhile, Trump was the one doing all the heavy lifting when we had a Congress under Paul Ryan, which was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. And, looking forward to the midterms, I think you're absolutely right that the focus on the economy as the number one priority, but then also parental rights and, some of the disgusting and disturbing things that we've seen from some of the teachers unions and from some of these school boards that are trying to call parents domestic terrorists. I mean, this is just ridiculous. But if the economy continues its downward spiral, and Joe Biden came out yesterday and actually said, "Oh, I think that looking at the global currency, the United States is in the best situated position to be able to respond to this." I mean, what world is he living in? This is ridiculous. And so you're right that it impacts everyday Americans, and everybody knows it. And regardless of whether they loved or hated Donald Trump, they loved the economy that he provided, and they loved the fact that America was number one on the global stage. They loved that they had jobs, we were thriving. And so I really think that regardless of the rest of the banter and kind of into the weeds that, politicos like you and I can talk about extensively, right, for the average person that's just looking at politics as kind of a side issue as they go about their daily lives, if the economy continues this downward trend, I really do think that we'll see Republican domination and a red wave across the country, because people are sick and tired of this. They're tired of being concerned to go out of their homes at night in regular American cities that, the police force and these people who are, the police force generally is great, but these people who are running these policies that want to defund are not doing their job. And so, as we're looking forward to the midterms, I mean, do you think that people who are hesitant about Republicans are actually going to get out and vote? I think that they will.
Yeah, I've seen, when you look at the polls, this right now, people need to focus on the battleground polls more than anything else. A lot of the stuff you're seeing right now is suppression-based polls. They're trying to collect data. They're trying to keep you away from wanting to vote. Just ignore this stuff. Right now, I just saw another one. On average, Republicans hold a 21-point lead in battleground House districts. This is vital. Now, it's not only just on these economic issues, it's on basically everything else. This was a 538 poll that I just saw, talking about inflation, talking about the economy, talking about crime. This is the stuff, like I said before, that has to be the focus in the midterms. You know, when you look at Donald Trump, when you look at his presidency, when you look at everything that we had, kind of going back to your point about, you know, Americans being in a much better position, I challenge people all the time, and I've been saying this a lot more. If you can channel out his tweets, if you can channel out some of that rhetoric and go on with your daily lives, you know, most Americans don't care about, you know, what's going on in the national political landscape. They want to live their life. They want to have, you know, good time with their family. They want to go out on the weekends. They want to be able to afford gas, afford groceries. That's generally what most Americans want to do. And so if you're able to channel all of this other stuff out and just go on with your daily lives, you're going to be in a much better place, you know, financially, economically, the stock markets, less crime in these cities. We have to keep holding these people, you know, accountable, which is another reason why they don't want to debate, is because all of these policy decisions, they're terrible. You can't defend the indefensible when it comes to this and Biden's policies. But I guess at the end of the day, what it really is going to matter the most is when we start calling them out for all of these failures. Keep doing it, turn up the pressure, because you can't refute that this has been an absolute dumpster fire for the last 2 years. It gets worse every single day. People are losing their lives. We're losing money. You know, I ran into a woman the other day, and this kind of hit me. We were in the grocery store, and we just got into talking about politics in the checkout line. And she's near retirement age. I think she was some type of aide in a school. I think she might have been a teacher. She lost over $30,000 within the span of 2 months from her 401k. Over $30,000. And she's near retirement age. This is sort of the reality that I think scares most Americans. And I think it motivates them more than ever with, you know, this righteous indignation to get out there and actually vote and do something, because we could have avoided all this had we had another 4 years of Donald Trump. We could have averted everything. But maybe people needed to see or have Biden for 4 years to really understand and really respect the idea of Donald Trump as president and Republicans holding Congress.
Yeah, and I think if we hadn't had the 4 years of Donald Trump, everybody was just kind of in a lull and seeing, right, okay, the Democrats are continuing this downward trend, but Donald Trump really awakened America to the concept that we, the people, actually can control government, and there can be a good economy. We can have America First policies, and kind of this, you know, really revival across America of engaged citizens. Yeah. But you're right. I think that the polls are suppression polls, and this is the same thing in 2016, the same thing out of 2020, that in all of these key races, they're attempting on purpose to say that, oh, these candidates are so far gone and they're not even viable anymore. I mean, I got a question yesterday from a reporter on Doug Mastriano's campaign out of Pennsylvania saying, you know, is his campaign even viable anymore? And I'm like, what are you talking? Like, what kind of question is that? You know, it's like, of course it is. And he's going to win in Pennsylvania. And yet they want to on purpose try to make it seem like, oh, he's down by double digits and, you know, don't even bother coming out. And they're trying on purpose to dampen the enthusiasm. And they on purpose, I think you're absolutely right, will not have Democrats debate people like Doug Mastriano, like Kari Lake in Arizona. They're not going to have their Democrats go up and actually have to answer to the voters for these terrible policies. And so, you know, I think that voters need to keep that in mind as well. If you have Democrats that are refusing to get up on the debate stage and actually answer questions, what does that say about the policies?
Yeah. No, I mean, 100%. You know, when I look at this, it should be a requirement at this point. If you cannot get up on a stage and debate and defend your viewpoints, defend your record, your policy stances, then you should not be, you're not fit to hold office. I'm sorry. I mean, you know, I look at John Fetterman and I wish nothing, you know, no harm on, you know, someone's health that I oppose. But what is with Democrats in this health issue where it's like you got Joe Biden, who is not all there. I mean, you could see that clear as day. Anytime you watch him in front of a camera, he's not all there. And it's sad. It's sad at this point. And then you have John Fetterman, you know, who changes sentences after every word. These are, you don't want this out of elected leadership. Why is the Democrats still pushing these guys? You could have found someone else and you would have maybe been, you know, higher in the polls had you changed out your candidates or told them to drop out. You know, these are, you know, sort of serious things. And, you know, if that's the reason why he can't debate, that's disqualifying to me. Katie Hobbs in Arizona, it's a very tight race, and she says she won't debate because, Kerry's too radical. It's like, well, can you go up there and explain why Kerry's too radical? Can you go up there and, offer, solutions to the problems that Kerry has, brought up, especially with the southern border, with crime in Arizona, with the failing education system? I mean, can you bring these issues up and talk about them? It's pathetic. And there's no excuse for it. We should be demanding, Democrats and Republicans, that if you are running for office, you are going to commit to some debates. They're going to be fair. They're not going to be controlled by the Democrats or controlled by the Republicans. There's not going to be questions where you're basically answering it while you're asking the question as a journalist. We've seen that time and time again with Trump in the 2020 election and sort of how they pointed at him in so many ways with these questions as sort of attacks. We shouldn't tolerate that stuff. We should have a free and open debate system where people can go up there, share their ideas, offer, refutation against others, and be done with it. Right. But we can't have that. And we need to change the whole system on how that works.
Absolutely. And you raise a really great point that, Katie Hobbs saying, oh, I won't debate because my opposing candidate is too extreme and too radical. Right. Well, last time I checked, the Democrats don't get to pick who their opponent is. And so it doesn't matter what she thinks of Kari Lake's policies, whether she thinks she's quote unquote too extreme or not. She needs to just go up and answer about her own policies and her own agenda, her own record. And yet the Democrats, this seems to be their campaign. You and I were talking yesterday about this, that it seems like every Democrat is just trying to paint all Republicans and especially America First Republicans as just quote unquote too extreme. I mean, we've seen this talking point on social media all the time from all of the Democrats. X person is too extreme. They're too extreme. They're too extreme, but they never define that. They never actually say why. And it just is part and parcel of Joe Biden's absolutely horrendous speech earlier this month when he's trying to paint the entire America First agenda as quote unquote semi-fascist, right, and yet offers zero evidence. And it's one of their own Democrats who actually ran down an 18-year-old kid that just for being a Republican, which is shocking and it's terrible. And yet the Republicans are weak and they're not standing up and saying, well, wait a minute, this is actually wrong, and changing the narrative.
No, and it kind of upsets me that not even our party, the party leadership, are even standing up to say anything about Kayla Ellington. It's horrible. It's like you have a perfect example. I hate to call it that, of political violence that happened weeks after Biden desecrated the birthplace of our freedom with that absolutely demonic speech that was nothing about the soul of democracy, was nothing about uniting this country. It was a diatribe against everyone who dons a red hat in this country and supports Donald Trump. It's very sad. And it's scary because now you're seeing people actually act out on that stuff. Similar to, the Bernie Sanders supporter who went out and shot at members of Congress, shot Steve Scalise. These are things that people act on. There's certain people out there that are crazy enough to where they'll hear that and then they'll go and do something. And that's what you see happening in this country right now. And it's unfortunate. The events that just happened, I guess it was somewhere up north. What was it, North Dakota, or I might have the state.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was really frustrated with the governor of North Dakota, who waited a solid 4 days to even issue a statement that was weak and pathetic after he got a lot of online social media pressure for it too.
Yeah. And that's another thing. It's a shame that you have to go to social media and complain about something to hold someone accountable. That's a whole nother thing. I mean, that we can have a whole conversation on that. But, in reality, it's when you look at Joe Biden, you look at this rhetoric and you look at what's happening after the fact, it's scary times for this country because really they want you to just lay down. They want you to give up. That's what they're hoping. But I think that what he did was the exact opposite. I think he reignited a flame in the hearts of millions of Americans that this is their country. They support the America First agendas and they're going to fight like hell to protect it, right? They're going to get out there. They're going to vote. They're going to support these candidates overwhelmingly. And that's what we've seen. That's what I've seen everywhere I've gone. We're closing the gaps, especially, in Arizona. Here in North Carolina, we're looking really good against Cherry Beasley. Bo Hines, another big race to watch here in North Carolina's 13th district. He's about 5 or 6 points ahead against his Democrat, former Obama campaign staffer. These are, this is pretty good. I'm happy about it, but we can't get too comfortable. We can't do another 2020 again. And we can't let people like Lynn Wood, right? We can't let certain people out there who are certain, I don't even know what to call them, like an undercover Democrat acting as a Republican, telling people not to go out and vote. We cannot have that happen again. We need to flood the polls. Millions of Americans, if you're in line, wait in line, bust your friends, get your family members out there. We have to do it because it's not dramatic to say that we're at the cusp of, losing everything. The economy collapsing, families collapsing, homelessness, the housing market's going to crash. There's a lot of things that are going to go bad if we do not get this party out of power and do something to fix it. Every time there is something, have to do with a recession, Republicans are the ones who come in and they always have to clean up the Democrats' mess every time.
Of course, because the Democrats' policies never work, and socialism, anytime that it's been tried, it's always failed. And so, they can't expect that their failed policies are actually going to work, but it's going to take all of the American people who care about this country to actually show up in November. And that is my message as well. I know that people are focused on different things. They may be disappointed still about 2020. They may have concerns about election integrity. They may have concerns about, whether the Republicans will actually, get off the bench and do something. They may just overall not really be engaged in politics. But if you're listening to the show, then probably you're at least semi-engaged in politics, or at least you care about this country enough. And I would urge you, get out and vote, and also tell all of your friends and family and your neighbors, and especially people in your churches. If faith-based Americans would 100% get out and vote in every single state, then we would win all of the elections. It's the Christians that stay home because there aren't, perfect candidates, or, this issue isn't exactly this person, exactly on what I would prefer on all of these kinds of things. Well, then run yourself, right? And you're going to find that there are a lot of people that actually disagree with your positions. And that's the beauty of America, is that we have people that can run for office, but it's always a closed universe situation where you only have one of a couple of options. And so you have to pick the best option that you have. And that was the message in 2016 for Donald Trump initially, when, people wanted to say, hey, I can't vote for him because of his past or his history or whatever. The people who sat home then in 2020 actually said, you know what? I regret that. And they came out in 2020. We've got to come out now in November, even more so. And like you said, overwhelm the polls, because this country is so much better than what the liberal left would like to say. And in just the last few minutes that I have with you, Ryan, I wanted to turn to this, just crazy pop culture story about Lizzo. And this is just, I think, a beautiful example and a perfect example. It's actually, hideous, but I say it's beautiful in a rhetorical sense because of pop culture and just where the left is looking to shape and move our country. So what happened, and if you haven't watched the video, do so at your own risk, because, Lizzo is basically famous, I think, for being one of the most morbidly obese people in the world who claims that she's oppressed. And yet, she's like a multimillionaire and, very famous, but she gets on stage in this really hideous outfit that is wildly inappropriate. And apparently is it like the Smithsonian or the National Archives or something actually allowed her to be the first person in United States history to play the crystal flute from James Madison. I mean, this is just desecration purposefully of America's history. And this just shows how much the left is laughing at American history, and they want to put somebody like Lizzo up to be like, oh yeah, now you've made history, honey. It's disgusting, it's depraved, and I don't care what anybody says. That woman is super unhealthy. She is absolutely not a role model in any way, shape, or form, and she is not oppressed. So, Ryan, your thoughts on this story?
When I first watched the video, it came to mind the late Joan Rivers. Who are you wearing? It was a disgusting outfit. And for them to give such a piece of history, and she be the first one to play it, this glass flute, was an abomination. I mean, there's no words for it. You could have picked, how many people are out there? There's millions who know how to play a flute. Famous people too. And you pick Lizzo. That, I don't even know. And, the craziest thing about all of it is that when you look at his history, he was a slave owner. 100+ slaves that he owned when he went to Congress. He still kept them. When he went to Congress in like 1801 or 1802, he still kept those slaves. And when he died, he didn't even free a single one of them, never even in his will freed any of the slaves that he owned. So if she knew that, I wonder if she would have still played his flute. I doubt it. So, are we going to cancel Lizzo now? It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can't even speak on this stuff anymore.
That's such a great point. It's like, at what point are they now going against their own cancel culture narrative, and they're saying, oh, I'm part of history by playing his flute as a Black woman. Yeah. And yet you raise an excellent point that supposedly these are the founders that they want to totally cancel. But, I really think her intent here is on purpose to pervert American history and to make fun of it and to make it this laughing stock that, she's on stage in this hideous, inappropriate outfit and, making a mockery. It looks like a circus, and it's on purpose trying to bring the dignity of America's founding into the absolute gutter. And this is a perfect, like I said, an encapsulation of the liberal left that just wants to make everything that is wonderful a mockery. They want to make history a total mockery. And this is the type of individual, and this is the type of ideology that they want to teach kids in public schools, and why parents are getting so concerned. Say, we need to have better role models than Lizzo.
Look at our school system. Look at, CRT. Look at, you have teachers now, saying, I don't know if you saw it, it was in El Paso, where the teacher basically comes out and says, don't judge someone just because they want to have sex with a 5-year-old, and don't call them pedophiles. We're going to call them minor attracted person or MAPS. This stuff is like out of the Twilight Zone, and you can't really even come up with a summation of words to, sort of explain it, because it's just pure insanity. This is stuff that parents care about. There's a lot of kids out there who are in public school system. And when you have teachers who, I remember years ago when I was in school, and I graduated high school in 2015, so it wasn't that long ago, you would always, if a student asked a teacher about, their husband or whatnot, they'd be like, that's not appropriate, right? You don't talk about this stuff. You don't talk about your sex life with students in K through 12 schools. It's just, you don't talk about politics unless it's like a civics class. But even then, you don't root for one side or the other. You're there to help them make it in the real world, not there to indoctrinate them on how they should feel on every little issue, right? And, I love it when you see, I just saw an article where a school banned all types of flags other than the state flag and the American flag. And I agree with that. That's the only two flags that should be in a classroom. You don't need like these LGBTQ flags and every flag that they have for every gender now, the Xi, the Zers, they have a flag for all this stuff now. And you see it hanging up in classrooms. Kids are there to learn, not to be indoctrinated, not to be swayed one way or the other. If the parents want to do that to an extent, so be it. You got the drag, queen issue where now it's like, a strip club and a drag show. The line between that is so blurry. They're almost the same thing. It's totally pervertedness. Children should not be used as sexual props. They should not be perverted by adults in the way that we've seen. Americans care about this. This is a kitchen table issue. It affects everyone. It affects your own children. And, I think that this is another big motivator going into the election, is a return to sanity, because we have lost so much of that here under Joe Biden and under, the last couple of years in this country. So.
Yeah, return to sanity. That's a great motto to push back against this. They're too extreme. Well, no, it's a return to sanity. Exactly. I like that. We'll have to hashtag that, get that trending on Twitter. Right. But Ryan, you're totally correct. And the thing about public schools and, these flags and these indoctrination, all that, we're talking about state-funded schools. I mean, this is supposedly the liberal left that believes in the separation of church and state, yet they're more than perfectly willing to put their own Marxist and religious ideology into public schools. Now, parents who choose to send their children to parochial schools and schools that have a specific viewpoint, whether it's Christian, it's Jewish, it's Muslim, whatever, that is the parent's choice, because parents have the right under our U.S. Constitution and in this country to train up their children in a specific religious preference. That's totally fine. But what isn't fine is for the state schools to use state dollars to have this indoctrination against the parents' wishes and even without parental notification. And that's what I find so appalling about all of this, is that they want this two-tiered system where they are fervently attacking any other religious viewpoint and saying state dollars can't go to Catholic schools. But then you have all of this state-funded money that's going for these indoctrination camps. I mean, school should be about just the basics, about, reading and writing and education, and to teach kids how to think and how to analyze, not what you say they should think and feel. Right. So, Ryan, we're out of time for today, but, I so appreciate it. Closing thoughts, and how can people follow you and support you and Students for Change?
Yeah, no, it was, I really enjoyed the program. I would say, looking towards the future, do not give up hope. This is a fight that we can win. This is a battle that we can win. It's spiritual. It's more than just on the surface. There's a lot of things at stake here. People's lives are at stake. Your finances are at stake. Your child's future is at stake. Do not give up the faith. Keep praying. We need a prayer army across this country, but we need to do more than that. We need to get out there. We need our candidates to talk about, these issues, these kitchen table issues that affect every single person. We will be able to win if we keep fighting and we fight harder. Get out there and vote. Get out there and volunteer. There's a lot of campaigns out there I know that need volunteers. They need poll watchers. They need door knockers. They need phone bankers. Get out there if you have the time, because I would hate for us to wake up the day after the election and think, maybe we could have did more to get our candidate over the finish line. So if you guys want to follow me, Ryan A. Fournier on Twitter, you can go to ryanfournier.com. Links to all my socials on there. I'm on Truth. I'm on Getter. I'm on Facebook, all of it. But no, thank you again, Jenna, for having me on the show, and God bless you guys.
Yeah, God bless. And thanks so much, Ryan. Always appreciate your insights, and you do great work, my friend. So really appreciate it. And for everyone who is streaming, make sure that you are subscribed everywhere that you stream, whether it is on your audio channels, on Rumble, on YouTube, and you will never miss an episode. And also make sure that you are stocked up for this pumpkin season with my coffee. That's my favorite. I have a cup every time before the show. And make sure that you put in, a little bit of pumpkin cream. So you can go to mystore.com and use promo code Jenna. Support Mike Lindell and everything that he's doing. But also, these are great American entrepreneurs that he is supporting. So definitely stock up on your My Coffee and everything else from mystore.com. Use promo code Jenna. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a really great guest. I'm super excited. So we'll see you then. Legacy Precious Metals is the company that I trust to give you good and patient counsel for investing in your retirement. The Biden administration has caused a financial crisis, and they have no clue how to fix it. Oil prices have skyrocketed, and when oil prices go up, not only do your expenses go up, but the cost of transportation and shipping spikes, leading the prices of goods to rise. And we are already seeing record inflation. That's the last thing that we need. Our economy is in trouble, and you need to take steps to protect yourself. If all your money is tied up in stocks, bonds, and traditional markets, you may be vulnerable. So gold is one of the very best ways to protect your retirement. No matter what happens, you own your own gold. It's real, it's physical, and it's always been valuable since the dawn of time. Call Legacy Precious Metals today at 866-528-1903 or visit them online at legacypminvestments.com. That's legacypminvestments.com, where you can download the free investor's guide. You can also go to my Facebook page, Jenna Ellis. I am a public figure on Facebook, and I just posted yesterday a really great interview with the president of Legacy Precious Metals, who is discussing why you need to start your retirement account even if you're in your 20s or 30s. There is always a great time to protect your retirement and invest, just like you want to protect your health over the long term. So go to Legacy Precious Metals at legacypminvestments.com or call 866-528-1903. MyPillow is having their biggest sheet sale of the year. You all have helped build MyPillow into the amazing company that it is today. Now, Mike Lindell, the inventor and CEO, wants to give back exclusively to you, his listeners. The Percale bed sheet set is available in a variety of colors and sizes, and they are all on sale. So, for example, the queen size is regularly priced at $89.98, but is now only $39.98 with our listener promo code Jenna, Jenna. So order now, because when they're gone, they're gone. The Percale bed sheets are breathable, and have a cool and crisp feel. These come with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so don't miss out on this incredible offer. There's a limited supply, so be sure to order now. You can call 1-800-564-8475 and use the promo code Jenna, or go to mypillow.com/Jenna. You can click on the radio listeners square and use the promo code Jenna. That's JENNA. Thank you so much to all of Mike Lindell's listeners and listeners of this podcast for making sure to support MyPillow and using our exclusive listener promo code Jenna. That's JENNA. And I want to ask you now to donate to Food for the Poor United in God's Work. Hurricane Fiona has pummeled the Caribbean with devastating winds, catastrophic flooding, and widespread power outages. Food for the Poor has been serving the poorest nations in that part of the world for more than 40 years, and they are responding again now. So during this time of crisis, hurricane relief kits containing food, water, hygiene kits, medical supplies, and other critically needed items are already being distributed throughout Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. You can support this effort by giving your best gift now. Please just text Jenna to 91999, and we have this up on the screen for you for those who are watching on Rumble and YouTube, and we'll send you a link to give. So text Jenna, JENNA, to 91999. Families have lost everything and need our help. Anything you can do will help Food for the Poor to bring aid to these families. Just text Jenna to 91999 and we'll send a link so that you can give. This is one of the largest faith-based international relief agencies in the United States, and Food for the Poor is able to respond quickly and efficiently to disasters like this. But they can't do it without your generous support, so thank you in advance for giving what you can now.